Fall is absolutely my favorite season here in New England. I missed it so terribly when I lived in Arizona for 7 years and in New York City, where I'm originally from. The fall, there's a reason why people come from all over the world to what we call leaf peep. It's because you get these brilliant colors here. I'm in the state of Maine, and we have a camp up near the Canadian border that's been in the family for some 80 years. And I took the time to go up there with my husband last weekend, and he helped me to do some collecting of some leaves, which I have Mod Podged to get them ready for working in projects. And then I have a beautiful hydrangea bush out front that is just starting to turn a beautiful pink color. And these dry so well on their own anyway. I'm going to have a vase of these. So I thought I would show you today some of the projects that I'm working on. I did get some inspiration from Nina Rabina, I think is maybe how you pronounce her name, and I'll put the link down below. I really liked her technique for how to preserve these. There were a number of videos on how to preserve these and put them into ephemera, and I'm just going to show you some of my successes and failures and show you my most favorite method. So one of the things that I saw online was a lot of people like to laminate these, and I do have a laminating machine. I have this larger Xyron, and I don't normally have gadgets, but this came with actually 2 packs of cartridges, and look, the whole thing at Savers was $6.99, so of course I had to buy it. So I experimented around with the Xyron a little bit and wasn't really super happy with the way it turned out. This flower here, I mean, on the surface it looks really cool, but this flower here was a little bulky. You're probably not going to be able to see it, but there are some areas where the lamination is just not pressing down really nicely, but this still certainly would look incredible in a journal. And then I tried just laminating without, this is on an ivory colored cardstock, and then I tried laminating just without, sorry for the glare, without the cardstock, and then sewed around it. Again, in theory, I like the look, but my sewing machine didn't like the lamination. There's some areas where the thread's already pulling out. And for some reason, see, I originally was using this side, but for some reason, it's discoloring. No matter how much I try to press it down, it's really getting rid of the color on the leaf, so I ended up flipping it over and using the underside of the leaf. So a lot of things went wrong with this. My intent is not to figure all this out and then give you a perfect way to do this. I'm just kind of showing you my mistakes as I went along, what worked for me and what didn't. This technique here is the one that I got the idea from Nina Rabina, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And my first attempt didn't go so well. So I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to show you what she suggests, and I'm going to make a few little modifications. So let me show you. I have these, oh, let me see if I can reach them. I have these watercolor cards by Prima. They're called Paintables. And I absolutely love these. As you can see, I have all 4 sets and duplicates because I use them so much. They make such pretty journal cards. And the thing that I love about them the most is they are on watercolor paper. So you can, I like to use my watercolor pencils, and you can use just about any mixed media product that you would want on here that you could put on watercolor paper. So I like that about these. These, by the way, I did Mod Podge because they were already rather dry and brittle. We've had a really dry summer here in Maine, and so I did Mod Podge these, and I'll show you quickly how I did that. And I also took some of the flowers from my hydrangea, if I can find it here, and put them in this very large book that I have. And look how pretty they turned out. I used some of the leaves. I even put a piece of balsam in there. But the leaves have turned out so pretty. So I dried a bunch of those as well. I tried, a couple years ago, I tried pressing flowers in my book press. I thought maybe that would be a real simple way to dry flowers, but I found that all it does is it crushes them too much. The book press is just, there's just a lot of force on there, and it just crushed all my plants and they splattered all over the place. So I'm just going back to the good old-fashioned book method. This is a huge book that I have. And let me dump these out of my table. All right. So what I thought I would do is take a few of these little hydrangea leaves, flowers, I mean, maybe even a leaf, I don't know, and put them around on this card, on this Prima card. But the first thing that I want to do, so that's what I did. I used one of the Prima cards for this, and I just colored in one little focus area. But what didn't work on here is, you see this discoloration up here? The napkin just didn't get all the way down on the leaf. So I'm going to try this again by watering down the Mod Podge a little more. But first I want to color this. On these I also really love using my chalks. I've had these since the 1980s when I was totally into cards. That's all I did was cards. And I've always loved the look of these, so I kept them. And I think I might just do the bird's nest a little bit, and maybe some other little elements. But what I love about these is you can just kind of just put it on, and it doesn't have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You can just put a little splash of color if you want, or you can make them a lot brighter. So let's do the bird's nest, and I think maybe a little touch of green. And through here. And again, I'm not even being neat with it. That's what I like about these. I'm just giving it a pop of color. Okay, that's really all I want to do. So let me get my, this is another one that I'm working on that I'll show you when it's dry at the end of the video. I think that one's going to turn out pretty. But the first thing I want to do is figure out where I want my leaves to be and my flowers. Trying to pick out some of the more pink ones here. So remember my rule of thirds. If you've watched my video on collaging, I'm using the rule of thirds here. So I've broken the card up into 3, and I have elements in all three segments. So I think that's what makes it look more interesting to the eye. So let's just remember that and take a little bit of Mod Podge that's watered down. She suggested 3 parts glue, Mod Podge or PVA, whatever you have on hand, to 1 part water. So I do think it is important to water it down just a little bit. And use, as she points out, you do need to use a very soft paintbrush. And a napkin is going over the whole thing, so just go ahead and put a light coat. And then apply your flowers. And then just take the back of a napkin. I think so many of us jumped on these when we saw them at the dollar store, didn't we? I've seen them in a lot of videos. Put that up there to use for something else. Okay, and then take this and put it over your project. Kind of try to pull it a little taut. And then really gently put your glue on top. Because it's so easy to tear the napkin. And as you can see by this one, it crinkles. The napkin crinkles, but I'm fine with that. I like that. I think it gives it more texture. And I think this is a cool idea. I wouldn't have thought to put just a plain napkin over this. So okay, so I think I've gotten everything down. And one thing I did learn from this too is that it's very easy to put too much Mod Podge on, so you want to make sure you don't have any blobs of Mod Podge. Just try to have it be as smooth as possible. Okay, and so let's let that dry, and I'll come back when it's dry. So this is still a little damp, but it's dry enough for me to be able to cut off the excess tissue paper and then show you what this looks like. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. You can't just tear the paper off because it has glue on it. So it's not completely dry. I'll show you it again at the end. But look at how pretty that's turning out. Hard to show you without the glare on it. By the way, I did use matte Mod Podge. I didn't use the glossy, but it still gives it a little bit of a sheen. So, but I'm super happy with that. And this one's still drying. I think I put a little too much Mod Podge on the leaf, but this one's turning out really pretty too. And then what I'll probably do once they're completely dried is I'll put them in my book press just to make sure that they're not warping at all, because I used a lot of wet glue on here, so sometimes that warps your card stock just a little. But certainly you can, if you don't have a book press, you can just press it in underneath a heavy book. But this one is starting to turn out gorgeous too. So this leaf is a little bit curled up. It didn't lay quite flat, but I'm okay with that actually. And I did the same technique as I did with the other one, is I just took my chalks and put some pops of color on there. And I'm going to continue to let that dry. So we have these two. So I do prefer this method over the laminating, I think. Although these look awfully nice, but I do like this napkin method. Now the next thing that she did was she did the same technique but on burlap. And so I have this really nice ribbon from the Ribbon Boutique, and I'm going to try putting this on a piece of ribbon. Now the one mistake I made when I was out collecting leaves is I was getting, oh, I just got glue all over my hand. Oh, hold on. Stuck my hand in my trash can and I stuck it into some glue. I was getting more enamored when I was out picking leaves of the color, and I wasn't paying attention to the size. So this one is this one is quite large for putting in a journal, at least the size journals that I make. This one as well. I loved this one because it's shaped like a heart. I thought that was so pretty. And so some of these just are really but yeah, so I'm going to find something else to do with these. So let me take a piece of this, and I think I'm just going to try, because the leaves are too wide, I'm going to try maybe putting a leaf and some of these flowers. Or maybe I'll just try a leaf. Let me see. Yeah, I'll probably get rid of this bended part here. And let's go about this long, just like a bookmark length, and put this in my textile scraps bin. So I think it's going to be easier if this is lying flat a little better. There we go. Okay. And somehow I lost my paintbrush. Oh, I have another one here. Oh, I know. I brought it downstairs to wash it off. I thought I was done. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover this. And about 2 leaves. That would be pretty. 2 leaves. Is that the right side? Oops, used the wrong side. And let's just do a couple of these flowers. Oh, this is going to be pretty. I like that. Okay, and I have a piece of napkin left over from before. Just kind of pat it down first. And gently glue the tissue paper down. Can't wait to see what this one's going to look like. Just try to get all the air bubbles out. Okay. About halfway through, I like to just, when it's not quite so wet, about halfway dry, I like to go through and just press any more air bubbles out. So let me put this glue somewhere where I will not spill it. And as soon as this dries, I'll pop back on and show you. Okay, everything's dry now, so I'm going to show you my samples from my least favorite to my most favorite. The most favorite one is hidden on the bottom, so you'll have to wait a minute to see that one. So these are the ones that we laminated. Yeah, it's hard to show without the glare. And I already explained the pros and cons of this. One thing I didn't think of too, though, is that you can't journal on the back of these unless you have a special pen. So that's kind of wasted space unless you're going to glue something on there. But you know, they look nice still. It's just they're not perfect enough for me to sell in my shop, or I would probably just use it for my own projects. Then we had the ones where I did the leaves on top of the Prima Paintables, and they are curling a little bit. I'm going to have to put these in my book press, but also the tissue paper just didn't adhere all the way down. There are spots and bubbles, and I thought that I really worked that Mod Podge in as well as I could, but evidently I didn't. What Nina did in her video is she has alcohol inks and she inked in um, the whole leaf, but I kind of don't want to do that because first of all I only have black alcohol inks. I don't have a storage of alcohol inks, but also I want the true color. That's kind of the whole point of preserving it. So not so crazy about these, but again they're pretty too, and they're just not, they just have a few flaws, which is not a bad thing in junk journaling. This is the other one. This is my probably most favorite out of these. This one did turn out pretty nicely. I put this little leaf in these flowers, this little leaf, I mean, in these flowers, and then I did this one. This was my first one, and here I did attempt to use a marker to color in where the tissue didn't adhere, but I didn't have the right color marker. So these are the three that I affixed to watercolor paper. And then my most absolute favorite, which I'm going to make more of these, is the one done on burlap ribbon. I love the way this turned out. I went this is the ribbon here, and I sewed it on using a zigzag stitch. I sewed it onto a piece of watercolor paper and used my ruler here to rough up the edges, and I love the way this turned out, and everybody that I showed it to so far, have shown it to, loves this one the best. The leaves adhered really well too. I don't have spots like I did in the other one, so I think that the fabric helps absorb and get the glue all the way through so that it sticks better. but I'm definitely going to be making a bunch of these. I think that these are so elegant, so pretty. So that's my vote anyway. My vote is putting it on fabric. And while I'm in leaf mode, I used my die cut machine, and I cut a bunch of leaves that are going to be going in my shop. I know a lot of you don't have die cut machines, so maybe you want some leaves for your projects. So there's a variety of different shapes and sizes. I tried to do them all in kind of neutral fall colors. Let me find another shape. There's another one. So they're really cute. I wanted some of these for my projects. They're all double-sided. A nice thick cardstock. And since I was making some for me, I always like to share. I thought I'd make you some too in case you want some. So that's about it. I have some ideas for videos coming up, so don't forget to subscribe and click the bell. And thank you so much for being part of my crafting community, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Happy fall!